Hi, welcome back and thank you for watching. Today we're going to be replacing the brakes on my Dodge Magnum, and there are 4 things I would like to address. Problem number 1, I'm getting a shimmy during braking. Problem number 2, the pedal effort relative to the stopping power is too great. It means I have to push the pedal really hard, or harder than normal than I would expect to, relative to the stopping power. Number 3, the front calipers rattle whenever I go over small bumps, and it's really annoying. Number 4, the parking brake doesn't work very well, so I'm going to try to adjust it. Oh, and if you haven't subscribed already, consider subscribing. To address the shimmy during braking, obviously I'm going to be replacing the front and rear rotors and pads. And then for the pedal effort being too hard, I'm going to flush the brake system. And for the front calipers rattling, I'm going to replace the caliper guide pin bushings. Just as information, I am not sponsored. All of these items I have purchased with my own money. These are slotted rotors from R1 Concepts. The pads are Optimum OEP. One thing with these pads is that they do not come with any hardware. So if you need the hardware, like the clips that go in the calipers for the pads to ride in, you'll need to order those separately. I was not aware of that, so I will be reusing mine. I'm starting in the back of the vehicle, and I need to remove, first, there's a bolt here, it's 15 millimeter, and then on the bottom, a bolt right here that's 15 millimeter. And then I'm going to hang the caliper with a bungee cord so that it won't dangle from the hydraulic line. Next, I will remove an 18 millimeter bolt here and down there to remove the caliper mounting bracket. These little clips right here to hold the rotor on, I've seen where they can sometimes thread off by turning them counterclockwise, but I'm not having much luck with that, so I'm just going to cut them or break them off of here just to get them gone. Whenever I reassemble, I have a hollow lug nut that I will use to hold the rotor on. Sorry to any of y'all up north that might be watching this. I imagine you might have some rust to contend with to get that rotor off. I already did the passenger side, and it was a little bit stuck on here. So I just took a hammer and hit on the bell here on just 4 sides and shocking it like that. Got it off of there and got it to break loose. So we'll blast this with some brake clean. I also want to clean this caliper and get all that out of the inside of it. All right, I'm going to get this cardboard out of here so I don't have to smell it. So let's go ahead and compress the caliper here. Should work. Okay, I want to clean this piece some more. Next, I'm going to rinse this stuff off. And then I have this is a product called Brake Buster from a company called P&S. This is a wheel and tire cleaner. But I figure it will probably work okay also for cleaning all this stuff off. It's supposed to cut through grease and also adds a anti-corrosive to the surface. I'm also replacing these bushings, the guide pin bushings right here. That's what a new one looks like. And they just press in to the caliper bracket. And so, I don't know if there's a better way to do this. If there is, please let me know in the comments. But the other side that I did, I took this screwdriver that's kind of sharpened. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. And basically went right in here and then hit it with a hammer. I'm going to try not to damage the caliper right here because it has an anodized coating on it. It's kind of gray in color. You can see it back here. That's supposed to keep it from corroding, rusting. So we'll get to it. So you can see right there, it's starting to come out. It gets kind of crooked in there easily, so that'll cause it to jam up. So you have to work from one side to the other to keep it even. Let's see if this will come out of here. You can kind of see how it's, maybe you can. It's a little bit crooked in there, so if I get here on the other side. Now it's coming out. There you go. I'm only going to show this process on this bracket because it's the exact same for the others as far as getting those bushings out of there. But again, if there's that seemed to work pretty well. I mean, if there's a better way to do it, then I'm all ears. Just let me know. So I want to clean this, wipe this out real well, this pocket. So that the new bushings will go in there easier anyway. Okay, so I'm going to take some Q-tips here and wipe out the pocket, the channels down in there, the pockets down in there. Okay, you can see right along in here, it looks like I knocked off some of that gray anodized coating that's on there, so that's probably going to have potential to rust. I don't know if it'll be a problem down here in the south where I am, but perhaps if you're up north, that might be something. Maybe put a little paint on it or something thin where you can just protect that metal. You can see looks like there's a little bit of corrosion happening right up there in the top. Okay, I've got some of this brake grease here. Again, not an endorsement. It's what I bought at the auto parts store. I'm going to put a little bit in this pocket here and just smear it around to allow the new bushings to slide in there a little bit better. So not a whole lot, just a little dab like that, just to put on the surface here. And I'll take one of my clean Q-tips here and I want to just spread that around a little bit like that. I guess in theory this should hopefully prevent corrosion too. I guess I should mention the reason I'm replacing these is because the calipers, at least in the front, they rattle over bumps like I mentioned earlier. So I read that the bushings need to be periodically replaced. To put these in is a little bit of a hassle also. I've got a 3/4 inch socket, and it fits nicely over the top of that, like that. And so what I can do is set this in there and then put this on the top and then kind of tap it with a hammer. Now the same problem going in can happen as it came out, whereas if it gets a little bit crooked in there, it'll kind of jam up, so you might have to tap on one side or the other, over here, just to keep it straight so it'll go on down in there. So it's a little bit fiddly, but it's doable. So as it goes, I just kind of, I'll have to stop and take a look and see, because it's might be a little hard to see which way it's crooked. So every couple of hits, you'll have to stop and take a look. Yeah, so there's an example where you can see how it's kind of crooked in there. So I'll tap it on the other side. You can kind of hear when it settles down, or when it presses all the way down. It's almost in now. You can hear when it gets, the tone will change. It'll get more solid. I think that's it. I don't see any shiny metal down there anymore. So I'm going to do the other one off camera, but that's the procedure that I've been using to get them out and replace them. And again, it'll be the same on the front calipers also. So we'll get this other one in and then we'll move on. I want to put a little bit of grease. I mean, not much at all, just a little bit in here. If I put too much, then my guide pins won't want to go in. So I'll put some here. Kind of like that. And then spread it around. And then we'll just push it down. If it kind of pops out like that, that's fine. Okay, put this one in here. Just wipe off the excess real quick. Now I want to put some grease in these channels here and up here on both sides for these clips to snap into. That's supposed to keep any noise or vibration, squeaking, that kind of thing. Keep all that quiet. Okay, spread that around a little bit. And I'll put a little bit really in the same spots, just on top of this clip for the brake pad, or yeah, for the brake pad to ride on. I don't want to get too much towards the inboard side, towards this side where the rotor's going to be, because I don't want to risk getting any of this on the rotor face whenever I put it on, whenever I put the bracket back onto the knuckle. Okay. Spread that around there. And I'll put some more on the end of the pads also. I'm going to put a little bit of WD-40 right here on this star wheel adjuster. Just like that. And that should allow it to move. I'll put a little bit right here too. Also, I want to push out this rubber plug so that I can adjust the tension. There we go. So that I can adjust the tension on that parking brake. And I'll set this aside. Put some grease right here. And then just spread that around. Hopefully this will keep it from trying to seize onto that hub in the future. I guess if you wanted to get really fastidious, if that's the right word, you could cover all this in here, but again, Southern car. I don't live in the Rust Belt, so my condolences to those of you who do. That's just an old factory lug nut that I took a Dremel and cut the cap off. Just the very top where it kind of bulged out. And that lets it set down. I don't know, it might go all the way down with that on there, but that works pretty well. I want to be careful not to get grease on my rotor when I'm doing this. Start. Put a little bit of grease on here. Put some grease here. also on this other side here. That way any of these surfaces that will meet the back of the brake pad. Hopefully this will prevent squealing. Put an 18 on here to hold that guide pin. These get torqued to 70 foot-pounds. These small bolts get 44 foot-pounds. Well, I broke the bolt off inside the pin. So after much wringing of hands and gnashing of teeth, I called around to a couple of local dealerships, and there's a supply chain problem, and it's going to be about 6 months before they have any replacements. So one dealership suggested that I check with Napa or CarQuest. So we have a Napa not too far from here, and they have them in stock. They have the front ones and the back ones. So I got a set for both rear calipers and front calipers just in case. Not a sponsorship or endorsement, but thank you to Napa for saving the day. I should also add that the bolt did not break due to over torquing. Evidently I had some debris down in here in the threads, or a thread was defective on here, but I double checked the torque spec in the manual, 44 foot-pounds, and I double checked my torque wrench, and they were both correct. So I'm gonna put these in, I'll grease them like I did before, and I'll put these in and torque them off camera, and then we can move on to the next part. All right, next we have to bleed the old brake fluid out of this caliper. And I have my assistant over here helping me to do this. So what we're going to do is put pressure on the brake pedal, and then I'm going to crack open this bleeder right here. And I've already got some fluid down in the bottom of this cup, so that way there won't be any air bubbles drawn back up into the line while we're flushing it. So we're gonna go ahead and start the flushing. So lovely assistant, hold the brake pedal, please. And I'm gonna say down. Okay. And then we're gonna open the bleeder. Here it comes. We'll let the pressure bleed off, and then we'll close the bleeder back. And then I'll say up. Okay. Down. Okay. Up. And so what we're looking for here is for this fluid to lighten up. It's not too dark to begin with, but it will lighten up a little bit as the fresh fluid comes. I've already put fresh fluid in the reservoir because we've already bled the caliper on the other side on the back. Okay, down. Up. Okay, so we're gonna finish this off camera and get this finish flushing this, and then we will move on to the next part. Okay, here is after flushing. You can see the darker fluid is up here on top, and then there's clearer fluid down on the bottom. And the torque specification for the bleeder nipple is 97 inch-pounds. That's 8 pound-feet. And we'll put the cap back on. And move on to the front. It might be helpful to turn the wheel to the opposite side of the car from where you're working so you'll have better access to the bolts. So I'm going to take the caliper loose. These are 13mm bolts here and here, and I will get those loose and then hang the caliper up. And once again, these are 18mm bolts that hold the caliper bracket on. All right, so there it is. So I'm going to take this outside and clean it like you saw earlier with the P&S brake buster, and then I'll also replace these grommets here, or bushings. First, I will get clips off of here, since I don't want to fight with them. 1, 2. And now we make a mess. And then I'll take an old brake pad and my C-clamp. My old janky C-clamp. And then we'll turn it in. Collapse those pistons now. This is the caliper bracket from that front driver's side. And plot twist, I had a rusty caliper guide pin, which also meant that there's rust down inside here, which is not good. So what I did is I used a product called Osfo, which this is not a sponsorship or an endorsement. This is something actually my grandfather used to use back in the day for treating rust. And what it does is it changes rust iron oxide into a iron phosphate. So when it makes its chemical change to the rust from iron oxide to iron phosphate, it will turn black. I poured some down inside there, and I noticed it was making a lot of bubbles. And what it does is it takes that black anodized coating off, which is not great. You can see there's still a little bit of it here. And you can see the rust looks black. If it'll focus there. There we go. So it's not ideal. And so basically what this means is that I'm gonna have to probably just replace both front calipers, because I was looking at the boots that go around the pistons, and they're not looking real great. They're okay, I think, for now. There's not any leaks or anything there, but it looks like it's going to be time to put some calipers on there. So if you have any comments about that, maybe, I'm not looking to do an aftermarket caliper, I don't think. I'll say no, because I don't want to spend that much money.
But if you have a remanufactured OE type caliper that you prefer or that you have experience with, let me know down there in the comments. I should also add, I'm going to be using the Napa new guide pins. And one thing I found was that when I first came down here, the pin would only go in about like that. It wouldn't, now it'll drop on in there. So what I did is I took some WD-40 and sprayed it down in there and sprayed it on here, and just had to kind of work that around in there to just open that up a little bit, because this side that was not rusty, it just drops right in there, no problem. And it's still a little bit tighter. You see, it doesn't just drop in there as easily as the clean side like that. So, but I did have to clearance that a little bit, and so I worked that around in there. I did actually the factory pin first, and then I did this one, because this one, the new one, still wouldn't fit after I worked this one, the factory one, in there. So after I got the thing to fit, then I took some brake parts cleaner and just flushed all that out to get the WD-40 out, and if there's any rust residue, to get that out. So again, not ideal and not permanent, but this will get me down the road for a little while, at least for a month or two, until I can figure out what I want to do about replacing the calipers. One other pointer is that the boot should go all the way to the bottom of that guide pin. If you see the metal up under, in between here, if you see metal from down to here, then probably what has happened is that boot has folded down into the hole. So you don't want that. That's a symptom, from what I can tell, putting a little too much grease on there. So this one actually folded down, so I had to use this little hook to reach down in there and pull it back out. So whatever you use to pull that boot back out, just make sure it's not too sharp that it puts a hole in it. So again, I'm going to put some grease around this hub. Put our caliper bracket on. I'll just snug them down for now. I'm going to put a little grease on the end of that. There. Next, we'll put some grease on our pistons here. And I'm also going to put some back on this side of the caliper as well, so that where it touches the brake pad, we'll have some grease also. There's a shot of the contact surfaces with the grease on them. Again, I'm going to just snug them down for now. 18 millimeter on the guide pin, 13 millimeter on the bolt. Once again, 70 foot-pounds for the large 18 millimeter bolts.
44 foot-pounds for the guide pin bolts. This upper one is a little bit tricky to get a torque wrench on. So I took a deep socket 13 and then go in behind the control arm there and torque it that way. And the bleeder nipple for these front calipers is right here. Get that. It's right there. And it'll be the same procedure as on the back, so I'll do that off camera. So I also need to top off my brake fluid. The max level is right here, and then the minimum is way down here below the seam in the tank. So I'm going to top that off up here to the max level. Right there ought to do it. Last, I need to do the parking brake adjustment. So for the left drum brake, you want to rotate the star wheel towards the rear of the vehicle to expand the shoes, and then for the right, you'll rotate the star wheel towards the front of the vehicle to expand the shoes. And so the instructions are right there. I will just expand it out till I get deadlock, and then I'll slowly start dialing it back until I get just a light bit of drag. Okay, this is the left side of the vehicle, so we want to rotate the star adjuster wheel towards the rear. And you can hear there's already a little bit of drag from the new pads that I put on. You hear that click? So we're going to keep turning this until we get deadlock. Now I'm starting to feel some drag on there. Almost. A couple more clicks. There we go. So that's, I'm sure if I can still move it a little bit, but I think that's probably close enough. So now I want to back off 6. I had to get a shorter screwdriver, so I want to back off 6. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, let's see. Yeah, I think that'll work. Again, I've got new pads on here, so it might be a little bit hard to tell, but it feels to me like that's pretty close. So the other side is going to be the same, except to open the shoes, I'm going to rotate the star adjuster towards the front of the vehicle instead of the rear, but it's the same procedure. So I'll go do that. All right, let's see how this parking brake lever feels. Oh boy, that's way tighter than it was. Before it would go all the way to the floor. still got some wobble in it. Let me see about, let me check the other side real quick. It's not moving. Before it would turn. Oh, I know what that is. That's the shoes. The shoes themselves have a little bit of movement inside that housing. So that's what that is. That's what I'm feeling. Because I can see that the rotor, I mean, it's not moving. So they're both locked down. So the shoes are grabbing the inside of that drum, and then the shoes are just bumping a little bit, which is fine. It's a parking brake. It's not for stopping the car. Okay, and this is over on the passenger side of the vehicle, but let's get my stopper put in there. Well, aside from this car desperately needing a bath, I think the rotors look pretty cool under there anyway. So all I have left to do is the break-in procedure that is specified by the manufacturer. So whichever brake pads and rotors you put on your vehicle, you want to follow those instructions as well. Okay, that will be a wrap for this video. Let me know what you think down below, and please consider subscribing if you haven't already. And we'll see you on the next video. Thank you for watching.